Hey, Foxy, now that you're a big TV star, I'm looking out for you. But this animal investigation is about your fellow animal actors who might not be so lucky. Is it Hollywood's dirty secret? The Hollywood Reporter claims animals on the big screen are being put in big danger. And despite one little disclaimer at the end of the credits in movies assuring us everything's A-OK during filming, it's a sham. We sent our Nichelle Turner out to investigate for the animals.
You've seen this disclaimer hundreds of times before. Now, a shocking report by The Hollywood Reporter alleges that the American Humane Association's trademark accreditation isn't always credible. Take Life of Pi's tiger King, for example. Despite his prowess and digital twin, the publication says King nearly drowned while shooting ocean scenes after becoming disoriented. In an internal email obtained by The Hollywood Reporter, an AHA monitor on the set said, quote, "Last week, we almost bleeping killed King in the water tank."
This is, to me, one of the dirty, dark secrets of Hollywood. By not reporting these incidents, by deciding on their own that they can deal with it internally and not bringing it to law enforcement, they're complicit in this.
The AHA responded, telling CNN, quote, "The email of the employee in question led to an internal investigation, and there was no evidence of any harm to the tiger, as determined after multiple inquiries. She is no longer employed by the association." The movie studio disputed the claim that the tiger nearly drowned, saying, quote, "We take on-set safety very seriously." Animal rights groups, however, say this is a problem that has plagued the movie industry for years. In 2012, while the stars of The Hobbit walked the red carpet, spectators lined the streets, not to cheer, but to protest.
The Hobbit was monitored by the AHA, and that goes to show that even when these films that use animals are being monitored, just tragic deaths and injuries do still occur.
But Hobbit director Peter Jackson says their disclaimer holds true.
Over half the animals in this film are computer, and there was no abuse and no maltreatment of animals on this film.
And on HBO's TV series Luck, charges of animal cruelty. Even though the AHA was present on set, the production was eventually canceled in 2012 after 3 horses died. HBO, owned by CNN's parent company Time Warner, released this statement saying, quote, "While we maintain the highest safety standards possible, accidents unfortunately happen, and it is impossible to guarantee they won't in the future."
Now, Foxy, the American Humane Association insists the Hollywood Reporter article distorts what they claim is a remarkably high safety record. But animal activists have been saying for years now there's a cover-up about what's happening to animals behind the scenes. Bob Ferber, you're our guest tonight. You were an LA City prosecutor who specialized in animal abuse, and you're quoted in this shocking story as saying you're not surprised by these charges. Why not?
Not at all, Jane. For years, I've worked with AHA. I was a city prosecutor, as you said, and was one of the first, actually the first animal cruelty prosecutor in the country. And I began to work with AHA years ago. And the very first thing I noticed when I worked with them was that their offices were owned, operated, and paid for by the industry. And of course, my first reaction was, wait a minute, if the police department can't be objective if they're being paid by the people they're supposed to be monitoring. But I had a good relationship with them. But over the years, I realized through working with them and through other stories and investigations that they're not there on the set when they say they are, that the story that was revealed yesterday is not just a story. It's an expose of detailed incidents, one after the other, of animals that were killed, that suffered, that almost died. And all throughout the story, what really is disturbing to me is the American Humane Association's response is that, well, these things happen. And when people see the end of a movie and it says no animals were harmed, according to AHA and the quotes in that article, harmed apparently means that means nobody intentionally killed an animal. All the other incidents that have been described to them where animals were neglected, they were mistreated, they were handled poorly, and they either died or suffered, the response seems to be, well, that's okay because nobody really meant to do anything. And you know, Jane, you and I worked together years ago when I started being an animal cruelty prosecutor. And in all the years, most of the animal cruelty cases that we identify throughout the country tend to be versions of neglect or mistreatment, not purposeful, intentional cruelty. And I don't know where they got the idea that by saying no animals were harmed, that is supposed to be limited to that. What we really mean is that nobody purposely tried to kill an animal on the set. And that's not what the public thinks.
Well, listen, as you know, Bob, and we have worked together on behalf of voiceless animals, all animals have one thing in common, just like little Foxy here. She can bark, but she can't speak for herself. So whether it's Billy the elephant being held captive in the LA Zoo, or, for example, animals on factory farms facing institutionalized cruelty, like these pigs stuck in tiny gestation crates, never able to turn around, or wild horses being held indefinitely in U.S. government holding pens. None of them can say, help me, I'm in trouble, I'm being abused, get me out of here. That's why organizations like the American Humane Association and their assurance at the end of the movie that these animals were not harmed is so important. Bob, what would you change to restore faith in the organization that has that stamp at the end of the films?
Well, you know, first of all, in this country, you know, 50, 60 years ago, Jane, there was no accountability for animal cruelty, virtually none. And I have to say that I give them credit, AHA, for beginning to set minimum standards by cooperating with the movie industry many, many years ago. But as you know and your viewers know, things have changed. In the last 15, 20 years, our society has raised its consciousness about animal cruelty, and we expect accountability. We expect prosecutions when appropriate. We expect the public to be able to scrutinize and know what's happening. What AHA has done is created or participated in what I actually have to call a cover-up of what goes on in the movie industry. So the only way that it can be improved is if law enforcement comes in and there's a situation or arrangements have to be changed with the movie industry so that law enforcement can come in and monitor objectively. A good example of this, Jane, is that, you know, when you think about a movie set here in Los Angeles, for example, every movie production has police officers, fire officials, building and safety inspectors, union people that are protecting the workers for their union rights. Even children have special protection. The only entity on a movie set that has absolutely no objective review and protection from an outsider are animals. And so AHA, with all due respect to all the good stuff that they've done in the past, many, many years ago, their role is over now. And I think that we need to have...
AHA, listen. Here's my take. And Bob, it's so great seeing you and talking to you again. A bureaucracy should never, ever get cozy with the industry it's supposed to monitor. There should be absolutely no relationship between people involved in the American Humane Association and people who make movies. It's hard to police and punish your friends. There's a tendency to look the other way. Foxy, it's just human nature.